Hello friends, welcome back to Cosmopolitan Cornbread. So today I am bringing you into the kitchen not for a recipe, but for an antique haul. So many of you know that I am a huge lover of antiques. I love all things antique, and I have not done an antique haul in a long time simply because I don't do as much antiquing as I used to because we have such limited space here in our little cabin. But I did recently acquire some antiques, specifically antique books. I love books. I am a, what do they call them, a bibliophile, a lover of books. I would have an entire library in my house if I could. And I do have a handful of very old books that I keep around, and I picked up a few more. Now, some of these are not as old as the others, so I've kind of got two different classifications here. I've got some really old books, and then I've got some other books, and I'm just going to take you through the books that I got. Now, this one, I really didn't need one of these, but I saw this pocket-sized Bible, and it was clearly a well-loved, well-read, well-studied Bible. It is very worn, it's very soft from use, and every so often, as I was kind of flipping through the pages, I found where someone actually made notes in it. This is just a little pocket-sized King James Bible. You know, like right here in the book of Acts, there's some notes up there at the top about Pentecost coming after Passover. There's just all sorts of scriptures that have been marked through here. Here's another one. What's this one say? Put God first. And it marked Luke chapter 15, verse 26. If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And, you know, to hate isn't like we think of as hate. It means to regard less. Regard less. All right, so the next books that I got are kind of some children's books. Very old, 1800s, this one. It is the McGuffey New Second Eclectic Reader. I love these old school books. You know, reading through these also, it kind of makes you think about the things that children were learning back then versus what they're learning nowadays. But this is one of the smaller ones. Then I have this one. It is the Selected Readings for 8th grade. This one was published in 1865, I believe. And then this one, let's see here. Interesting. Someone put in here, My Own Eliot. So this was Eliot's own copy, it seems. This was an 8th grade book. And when was this? 1911 by Gin and Company. The Man Without a Country, The Skeleton in Armor, Horatius, The Singing Leaves, Washington from Under the Old Elm, Incident of the French Camp, Prelude to Under the Willows. And then this one is the Elson Reader for 4th grade. Oh, I forgot to show you the cover of this one. There you go. That was the 8th grade book. And we've got a 4th grade book here. This one was printed in, let's see, 1912 is this one. And it has, let's see, Evening at the Farm. I wonder what this one's about. Let's go to that one, page 33. What is this? Oh, it's a poem by John Townsend Trowbridge. John Townsend Trowbridge, 1827 to blank, because he was still alive when this was printed. Isn't that something? And then the other one I got was this here. It's a third grade book, I think. Third reader. The Pathway to Reading. This one's not as old. This one came, it says, property of the state of Arkansas. So this was a school book here. 1930s. It's got the children's names in there. You see that? Who this book belonged to through the school years. I wonder if there's anyone who sees these names and knows those people. Say, that was my grandmother. Patsy Kuntz, Jerry Ray, Jimmy Smith, and Benny Jean Martinus. That's an interesting name. From the Bell Point Elementary School. Let's see, when was this printed? 1932. Okay, so those are the older books that I got. And then I got these. You know, like I mentioned, I love books. I love antiques. But then we're also a homeschool family. I homeschooled my children. Someday, Lord willing, I'll be homeschooling my granddaughter that lives here in Arkansas. And so I love having books for a number of reasons. And then I got this one, a copy of The Diary of Anne Frank. And I will tell you that when I was in junior high and I read the story of The Diary of Anne Frank. Now this one is in the form of a play, so it's not the regular story, but when I read the original in junior high, it was, I don't think any book has ever affected me that much, you know, as a child. There's no other book that affected me as greatly as reading that book. It was something else. And then this one, I thought this would be kind of fun to have. It is a very old copy. And I always love seeing inscriptions in the front of these books. For Sunny Dear of Valentine from Grandma Jake's Aunt Hezzy and Jackie. So it is a copy of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. And this one was from 1908. So a 1908 copy of The Wizard of Oz. So those are kind of like the kid-ish sorts of books that I got for collecting. But then there's some other books that I got on my recent little antiquing expedition. And these are kind of in a different category. I decided to add a few older cookbooks to my collection because I was talking to my friend Heather. It was more than a year ago. We were talking about, different things that we like to do and having ideas for doing YouTube videos and everything. And I told her, I'm like, I have all of these old cookbooks that belong to my grandmother. I ought to start making recipes from these old cookbooks and kind of do it as a series. And I could even call it like Cooking Grandma's Recipes, or I don't know, something with the vintage cookbooks. But anyways, I decided to pick up a few more old cookbooks. Now this one You know, I didn't go through it when I was in the antique store because I was kind of limited on time. I just saw, oh, this one looks kind of neat. Casseroles. Can't go wrong with casseroles. Well, this one is from 1977. And I will tell you, I think that that was probably an era of the worst culinary decisions. That era was just so bad. Because, you know, when I did get home and I looked through this cookbook, one of the first ones I saw in here was hot dog casserole. It was basically macaroni and cheese with hot dogs cut up in it. And I'm like, I don't see myself making that. So I don't know that I'm going to make any in this cookbook, to be honest. I did not see anything that kind of struck an interest to me, so I will probably just donate this one back to a thrift shop. Thankfully, that wasn't the only cookbook I got. I got a great big, more modern cookbook. This is the King Arthur Flour Whole Grain Baking Book. And this is a nice, big cookbook. And this was a well-used cookbook because you can see right here at the top, look at all of those dog ears, meaning lots of recipes that had been marked, lots of marked pages. And you can also see there is lots of pages with splatter marks. And splatter marks on pages means it was used. That is why all of my printed recipes are in page protectors, so I can wipe them off if I need to. But tons of recipes in this book, which, you know, y'all know I love to bake, so I couldn't beat the price. $2.50 for that one. Now, I also have a couple of other ones that I got on my little antique book expedition, you might say. But I have them put up, and I need to show you what I did. You know, when we started working on this kitchen, which we're still working on this kitchen, hopefully we can get this part knocked out here in the very near future so we can finish up the kitchen. But when I hung these upper cabinets, I intentionally left a space here, and I mentioned that I had a reason for it and something that I was going to do very special. Well, I finally got around to doing it. I created a cookbook nook. Little shelves just for holding cookbooks right here in the kitchen. So this was the plan the whole time when I left that space in between these two wall-mounted cabinets. So I finally got around to completing it. I just cut some nice thick, like 3/4 inch plywood to make the shelves in there. Drilled holes through the wall of the cabinet, you know, pre-drilled, put screws in there to hold it. Finished it off with a nice piece of trim to give it a good finished edge. Painted it, and there you go. We've got the Cookbook Nook up there. So now some of the cookbooks up here were recent purchases when I got the other ones, and I'll pull those down here in just a minute. But that Betty Crocker cookbook right there, that belonged to my grandmother, and it was very well used. It is full of newspaper clippings, handwritten recipes. That was my grandmother's go-to cookbook right there. And up there at the very top, there's two more. There's the Better Home and Gardens and another Betty Crocker cookbook. Those also belonged to my grandmother, but she had them, but she didn't use them as much. That one right there was her go-to cookbook. So I'm going to pull down the other ones that I got, and I'll show you those. All right, now this particular cookbook, I did not just get this. I pulled it down because I wanted to show it to you. This was actually my grandmother's. She loved to can. She loved to do cooking and all of that. And this was her canning book. for at least part of the time that she did her canning. And there's bookmarks and there's notations all throughout here. But this was the Complete Guide to Home Canning, Preserving, and Freezing from the USDA. And I actually don't even know what year this one was. Let's see. 1973. So there you go. The 1973 USDA Food Preservation Guide. But I recently picked up these, and I just thought these would be kind of neat to have. This one was actually a mailer of some sort. Little bitty book from Ball. And I don't remember what the year was for this. There was a notation for the year. I'll see if I can find that, and I'll put it on the screen here to let you know what year this was, if I can find it. Then I got this one, the Ball Blue Book of Canning and Preserving Recipes, Edition T. And this one is from 1936. And you can see this was another well-used canning book. And then the last one of these is this one right here, the Home Canning Guide, including quick freezing, dehydrating, brining, winter storage in cellars, pits, and boxes. Health for Victory, 10 cents. Prepared by the Home Economics Institute in, let's see, Mansfield, is that Ontario? Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company, Mansfield. I guess that's Ontario, maybe. It has an O. I don't know what else that would be. $1943. And then these here are the other antique cookbooks. Now, this one, I actually bought it a long time ago. It's not new to me. This one here, it is so incredibly old. It is brittle. I'm actually kind of afraid to go through it, but the few pages I did look at had such interesting information. I'm hoping I can find another copy of this book that's in better condition so I could actually look at it. But this is the Everyday Cookbook, an encyclopedia of practical recipes for family use by Miss E. Neal. Economical, reliable, and excellent, it says. It was printed by the Chicago M.A. Donahue and Company. And the year of this one, I had looked it up. It was from the 1800s. I don't think I could find it in this particular book. I think the first page is actually missing. But it was from the 1800s. And so, like I said, this thing is so brittle and so fragile. I'm afraid to even really go through it. But I'm going to see if I can find a newer copy of it so that I can go through it. So here's the other ones that I've gotten. So this one is called the Encyclopedia of World Cookery, and it's got another inscription in the front. This was given to Elizabeth Dees for Christmas 1960 from someone named Sylvia. And it's the Elizabeth Campbell Encyclopedia of World Cookery. And it's got all sorts of recipes that I think might be more in lines with things I'd like to experiment with. Meat cakes with sauerkraut sauce. Goulash with sauerkraut. I turned right to the Germany section. We've got, let's see, in France, pancakes, homemade milk cheese with fresh fruit, pastries for fruit, custard, or cheese tarts. What else do we have? Oh gosh, stuff in French that I cannot say, and I'm not even going to attempt to. Big section. Oh, we've got Czechoslovakia. spinach rolls, braised beef, cabbage, baked spaghetti, Czech bread dumplings. What else do we have in here? Creole, just a tiny section for Creole. China and Japan, Canada, the Balkans, Austria, Australia and New Zealand. So all sorts of recipes in here. And then this one is called Americana Cookery. I always love it when I see books that say cookery because it's such an old term. This one says it's an illustrated cookbook of regional Americans' traditional recipes. And someone had some favorite recipes that they marked the pages for right there at the front. This was printed, when was this one printed? It doesn't say. I don't know. I'll have to look it up and see if I can find a year for this one. Is it in the back? No, I don't see a year. But there's that one. And then the last one I found, which I was kind of surprised to find this one, The Complete American Jewish Cookbook. And this one was printed in, let's see, 1952. And you could kind of tell right off the bat that it was somewhere around the 50s just because of the types of photos that you see in here. But I loved the inscription that was in this cookbook. It says, October 23rd, 1964, I am giving you this book to make sure you take care of Martila's appetite. Love ya, Mom and Pap. So this must have been a wedding gift for somebody. So that is it. Those are kind of the antique cookbooks and other books that I've added to my collection here recently. And like I mentioned, I'm playing around with the idea of starting a series of trying out really old recipes, and I thought maybe that would be something that would interest everybody. I know last year there were a couple of recipes that I did. There was one out of this one, the American Woman's Cookbook that I have here, and I had so much feedback about that. So many other people saying, I have that same book. This one was from 1946, and you know, it was another one of those well-loved cookbooks with notations and all of that in there, which I always love to see that because, I mean, I know I do the same thing to my cookbooks. So it's always neat when you see a very loved cookbook. But so that is it for today, friends. Thank you for joining me here again at the homestead. My name is Constance from Cosmopolitan Cornbread. God bless, and I'll talk to y'all next time.